Let's get now to Bloomberg Surveillance, where Karl Case, who's the co-founder of the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index, we just saw those numbers, he's speaking with Tom Keene and Ken Prewitt. Let's listen in.
And you have a reasonable degree of new households forming, you should see the vacancy rate go down. The vacancy rate that matters is the one that we have best data on is from the CPS, and it says the vacancy rates are at record levels in both rental and ownership.
This is important, folks. We welcome all of you from Bloomberg Television around the world with us, Karl Case. And, you know, Karl, you're telling me that the numbers are better today, but then you're telling me about inventories, vacancy rates, shadow inventory, demographics. What's going to happen with the August data and the September data?
That's where we're going to really learn something. Once this is back behind us, I'm not surprised that the number of units we sold is down in July. But if it continues in August and September and becomes a trend, and we start to see prices falling back, with even if it's just seasonality, then it's going to change the mood. Mood matters a lot. Bob and I've done a lot of work on that.
Yeah, Karl, Ken, dive in here.
Yeah, I want to ask this kind of a basic question, but we keep saying cities, but this is really metropolitan areas, right?
It is metropolitan areas, but you can look at the city graphs. They look pretty much the same.
But if I look at a 2.5% increase month to month for Detroit, that's not just Detroit. That's Birmingham and Grosse Pointe.
That's true too. Yeah. That's right. That's right.
Okay. So what happens in Vegas? I mean, you know, we started getting reports that one reason it was growing so fast up until a couple of years ago was public employee retirees from California who were moving to Nevada to take advantage of no state income tax. It sounds like with mortgage rates as low as they are and prices as low as they are, that's just going to prompt more of that, right?
That's the way the market works. If something's in excess supply, prices go down, and that draws people in. If you look at housing today, it's unbelievable. It's down 30% on average over the last 3 or 4 years. It's down 30%. The mortgage rate is about 4%. And if you look at a $300,000 unit, that was a monthly payment of $1,500 3 years ago. It's now $780, $800.
That's great. So if $1,500 was a nut, and now you're $800 clean because of the affordability.
And you're buying and think about buying a house. You're investing in something, right? And the biggest part of the yield comes in the form of services that are fixed forever because you're living in the house. That's the biggest part of the yield. The capital gain are all tax-free.
Are we buying littler houses than we were 3 years ago?
That's to some extent, but there's not real good data on that kind of characteristics in that short of time.
Right.
You know, it used to be that the main determinant of whether you rented or bought was whether you were married or not.
Yeah.
And that started to change, you know, back in the 90s. Are we back to that again?
Well, on the demographic side, and there's a whole bunch of things going on. I believe when Mankiw and Weil wrote a paper 20 years ago called "The Baby Boom, the Baby Bust in the Housing Market," and it was based on once he wrote it, he said the market was going to collapse, and then they discovered in the 1990 census that we had 10 million people we didn't know we had. I'm worried we're going to find out we have fewer. There are fewer people coming to this country. A lot of the ones who are here didn't find the promise they looked for going home, and kids are doubling up and staying with mom and dad.
What's the price going to do, Karl Case, here in the next year or so? Is it down a couple percent? Is it down double digits?
I think it's going to stabilize, and it'll go down a little bit no matter what. In the fall, there'll be there's some seasonality, and there's this give back of some of the benefits of the tax credit, which led to about 175,000 units in total, I think. So it's not.
All right, that was Karl Case, co-founder of the S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index, talking more about what exactly is going on in the U.S. housing market.